Hi, everybody. This is AJ speaking. Today, I wanted to talk about the new Model Y, which Tesla just released. So before we dive in, let's talk about the big picture. Tesla could make 1,000 horsepower Model Y with 1,000 miles of range if they wanted. It could have massage seats, a cooler, and all the bells whistles you could possibly imagine. But it would be $300,000, and almost nobody could afford it. So let's get this out of the way. This is not what Tesla is about. Tesla wants to make a sensible vehicle, um, and what you see is basically a compromise. So keep that in mind. And this presentation is from a shareholder's perspective, and some enthusiasts will hate many things I'm going to be saying in this video. Just keep this in mind, because in automotive, the name of the game is not total revenue, is not total units. It's optimizing for total gross profit. And this is exactly what Tesla does with this vehicle. So keep that in mind. Gross profit, just as a reminder, is what's left after you took in the revenue and you paid for what it cost you to sell your products. And gross profit then pays for everything else: operating expenses, taxes, and to have something left for the shareholder. So the name of the game is gross profit. And what Tesla delivered is basically the optimal solution if you believe in an autonomous future. So and now I give you the conclusion of this video right up front. The conclusion is that this new Model Y is what would be considered in automotive world a mild mid-cycle refresh, because what Tesla did, they took the Model Y, they changed the outside of the front, they changed the outside of the rear, they took basically, with some exceptions, the interior of the Model Y, and that's it. That's the same vehicle as the outgoing Model Y. And the specs improvement and some other things, we will dive into how they achieved it without really touching any of the significant drivetrain components or making a completely new chassis, etc. And 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 I will touch on a bunch of other things. And now we finally know why Tesla's R&D expense actually went down so much in the third quarter, because to make this refresh was actually relatively cheap and was strategically precisely the right thing if you believe in an autonomous future. And of course, Tesla does. And that's why developing a new Model Y from scratch, which would have cost billions, makes absolutely no sense. So what they took is they took the successful Model Y formula and gave it a mild refresh. And let's dive into it. So here on the first screen, you see a comparison between the old Model Y, the picture on the top, and the bottom, a new one. And you can see um, there it looks very similar. Obviously, there are no major changes, and some details I'd like to point out. So the new one has the LED light, which is very similar to the Model 3. There are some differences we touch upon later. Um, the center console is identical except for a few tiny differences we touch upon later too, with the Model 3. It now got the screen in the rear as the Model 3, which the old one obviously doesn't have, the old Model Y. So the stock is gone, obviously. A new one doesn't have one anymore, and there's a new steering wheel. So this is basically it from the in terms of interior. Then when we look at the outside, you can already see that if you ignore the front and just look at the side, it's identical. The handlebars, so the door handles, it's exactly the same. The camera positioning exactly the same. Even the groove is the same. This dimension down here, panel part, is often a giveaway for change body, is identical. So all this is completely identical. I even believe that the here the door for the charging port is also identical. And so all Tesla did is they changed the front. Front is very different. Um, and what they did is they cleverly eliminated this spot. This spot, there's three panels, and the front light come together, and they create this difficult spot. If you ever look at the Model Y, old Model Y, and you look at this part, it's a very complex part. That there is the hood, the front, then this panel part, the fender basically, the end of the fender, and then there's the light. So oftentimes this doesn't look perfect because it's very hard to align. Tesla now eliminated it entirely. In this spot, there's only two panels anymore. All the rest is below that edge. So and they completely eliminated this edge, which also makes for much simpler alignment. So this is perfect. This also for the first time creates cross-platform common design language. Cross-platform means so 3 and Y basically one platform. But now with this element in front, it bridges over to the Cybertruck and also the Cybercab design language. So this will be the fascia of Tesla going forward. So this is this makes sense. This is what all great auto brands do. They have this unified look. Um, because it just resonates with the customer. Then when we look at the rear, so what they did is very cleverly, they pulled up this black plastic part, which is a relatively cheap part. Let's call it the diffuser. It's now much bigger. Um, they they completely eliminated this massive body panel. So you see this white body panel. It goes from here to the left, all the way around to the other side. It's gone. What you have now is this relatively small body panel, and then you have the same one on the other side. And so you eliminate this entire edge, which then also makes alignment of the rear door, so the door to the trunk, much easier because this entire thing was eliminated here, and because this is a black part, um, you have a much bigger gap here anyway. So alignment 10 times easier here. And then, of course, we get the design improvement from the Model 3. The Model 3's rear main design improvement was that the rear light was attached to the trunk door. So it moves up with the trunk. This eliminates this kind of stupid splitting of the rear light. So you have here this unit, and then you have here another unit, and so this unit moves up with the door, and this one stays attached to the vehicle. So that's a great improvement. And again, I think when you look at this panel part, including here the charging port door, I think this is exactly the same part. There's no change at all. So all Tesla did is they changed here the 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 door, brought this panel down, this up, eliminated this massive part. So this is a significant simplification in sort of the outside body. But the rest, as you can see, is complete. It's entirely the same. They made here some small tweak on the rear view mirror, but if you look at it closely, I think it's only the plastic cover, and I think they just made it a tiny bit smaller to get, I don't know, 1, 2, 3, 4 miles more of CLTC range. So that's pretty interesting. And then here we just take a quick look at a comparison between the interior of the Model 3 and the Model Y to look for sort of parts commonalities. And you can see, I think we can conclude that the seats are exactly the same. Um, the center console is exactly the same except for one little bit. We have here the silver frame, which might very well be a common part in all Model Y, Model 3 soon. But here in the picture, at least, the Model 3 doesn't have that silver frame, a small detail. However, the door is meaningfully different. Um, but just here the upper part. So here the Model 3, this is a simpler design. Here Model Y, it's a higher segment vehicle really. Um, it costs more, and so they made it slightly more complicated here. They stopped the LED light strip here, but this part is all the same. Screen certainly will be exactly the same, and I think the steering wheel um, is also identical, which makes sense that the new Model 3 steering wheel looks great, has a good feel, and of course no stalks like the new Model 3. So here is another picture where we can see that the body wasn't touched really, except for the parts we already discussed. You can see here this part. So this is the um, old Model Y, and here you see the new one. So this part, when you look at this contour, is all the same. However, the fender here is different to accommodate the different shape of the hood, obviously. But all these edges meet at the same spot. So this is another giveaway that this is the same body effectively. So then on this slide, I highlighted some of the things we already discussed. Here, this very complicated spot on the Model Y was eliminated entirely on the new one. Um, the silly splitting was removed, eliminated. This edge was eliminated, but we already talked about this. So then we talk about some of the key specs. So what Tesla did is, and they call the new Model Y the first edition. People who ordered before February 28th, they get some extended warranty. Tesla's warranty is already very good, but it's also good to see something like this from Tesla, that this shows that Tesla has high confidence in the longevity of their components. But here let's talk about some of the key things. So you can see Tesla raised of the entry level Model Y the price by 5.4%, so by 13,600 yuan. It's around $1,800, and the long range 4.3%. And I think just like the when we saw the new Model 3, the performance version will likely be um, launching 1 quarter later. Then when we look at the range, so now this is where it gets interesting, where we have to talk a bit more about sort of the technical aspects. So you see range increased by about 7% in the single motor and 4.5% in the long range motor. And let's not talk about the CLTC too much. Just talk about the relative improvement, because this range standard is highly highly optimistic and is widely known to be completely unrealistic for any vehicle. But the bottom line is we can look at the relative performance improvement, and I think most of this performance improvement comes actually from the tires. Lars Morvani, Tesla's VP of Engineering, he talked about this at the time of the Model Y performance release actually a lot. And I think this range improvement was possible by the tire, by tire simplification, which was enabled by reducing the top speed. Um, so when you reduce the top speed, you basically can design the tire for obviously less rotational speed. And this vastly reduces sort of the strengths that the tire needs. I mean, the tire still has plenty of safety margin, but you can then simplify the tire, and that makes a significant performance increase. And I think Tesla, so basically Tesla reduced the top speed, was then able to simplify the tire, that improved range, and then probably Tesla made some aerodynamic tweaks. And and we also saw that probably the outside mirror was made a little smaller, and I think in some is what you see here in the range improvement. And then when you look at the acceleration has improved significantly. And I think what Tesla did here is they simply changed the gearing. Obviously, Teslas don't have a gearbox, but because of the high rotation RPMs of the electric motor relative to the wheels, you still need some gearing to translate the high RPMs of the motor into the much lower revolutions per minute of the wheel. So what Tesla did here, I think they lowered the gearing, um, so which basically results in the motor spinning faster at equal speeds, if you compare the old Model Y and the new Model Y, but it gives you um, more wheel torque at equal speeds effectively. And so what happens here is you have then this acceleration boost. So for example, the entry level gets 1 second faster, which is a lot. And then the long range also gets faster by 0.7 seconds. You will definitely feel this difference. This is quite significant, and you get it all for free by lowering the gearing, limiting your top speed. The lower top speed then allows for a more efficient tire. You get more range. So you get basically all these free improvements for sacrificing relatively little, because outside of Germany and very few places elsewhere on the planet, you can't use this top speed anyway. And this is not a race car, it's a freaking SUV. So you don't really need this top speed again outside of Germany. In Germany, this top speed is problematic, but it's a very German problem, because this is not that much. Because on the autobahn in Germany, you will constantly drive into the speed limiter, um, uh, especially on the long range, which is more powerful. Um, but anyways, Germany is only a small market on a global scale, so this doesn't matter. So this was the right call, even though enthusiasts will call foul, but this was economically, again, this talk is about the shareholders' perspective, was absolutely the right decision, because if you think about it, what percent of your drives, even in Germany, are at or near this speed? It's probably less than 0.5%, right? But this acceleration boost you get 100% of the time. So this is absolutely the right trade-off. And just a personal anecdote, I ride super bikes and bikes with over 200 horsepower on 200 kilogram, and we even make the gearing shorter because we don't need the 300 kilometers top speed they would deliver, um, because even on the racetrack you hardly ever go this quickly. So we gear it down to 280 or something because this gives us more acceleration. So this makes all a ton of sense. So then we look at the weight. Weight is, I mean, it's a 10 to 11 kilo increase, which is, look, is almost identical. I suspect Tesla probably switched out some aluminum parts with maybe some cheaper steel parts, or some stamped parts. So not really much of a change at all. Then the length, it became noticeably longer. This is about, I think, 1.8 inches, 47 millimeters. And this will give it a more, um, this improves the looks definitely. It's also, this is very common when you go from one model generation to the next. This is a very widely observable phenomenon. Cars simply always get slightly bigger, and you also want, like, typically a new model slightly bigger than the older one. But I'm not going to get into all the details why that is, but this was kind of expected, and I think this is all this length increase will come from the front. And so the change in percent is 1%, and then the width is basically identical. There's 1 millimeter difference, which I think is like 0.04 uh, of inch, which is like, you cannot see that. It's impossible. And this, to be honest, people might say, "Oh, AJ, you're wrong. They must have changed the body because it got wider." Look, this is so close together. This could literally be just different rounding when they took the official measurement, or the difference can be the result of different temperatures. If one was, at cold temperature, was measured at cold temperature, the other at room temperature, this can easily explain sort of the delta, or that there are simply tolerances. And so anyway, so this is basically no change in width, and then height, there's no change at all. So this is another indication that there was no fundamentally new model. And again, this is a good thing for shareholders. So if we now look at some of the R&D expenses, so here you have actually reported R&D expenses, and here's my 4Q estimate. And what you can see is that we in 3Q we saw this massive decrease in R&D expenses, even though Tesla is working on, obviously, FSD, AI products, Optimus, Cybercab, new lower cost models, and Model Y. How is this possible? I estimated R&D would slightly increase because I anticipated the Model Y release. So typically you see increases in R&D spend. For example, Cybertruck launched here, and so 4Q 2023, and in 3Q we saw for many weeks tons of leaks, tons of road testing of the Cybertruck, and you can see the increase in R&D spend, and also Tesla commented on that. So this was like completely normal. So you expect an increase in R&D expenses, but this time it's different. So here's my forecast. So we don't know this number yet, but I expect an increase because, again, there's a new model launch. There should be some increase, but that 3Q would drop so much. Nobody had this on the radar. This was also a big driver of my miss in 3Q. And now we basically know why, because this new Model Y is just a very mild refresh, and Tesla used some very clever engineering to basically get more user performance out of the same thing, while at the same time saving cost. So this is like typical Tesla style, and this is brilliant, and that's why as a shareholder I love it. With that, see you in the next one. Bye.